Welcome back to the shop, guys. This is Jake with Jacoby and Company Woodworks, and today we're going to be making a little jewelry box for my friend's daughter. She is less than 1 year old, practically a newborn still, but she has her ears pierced and she needs some place to put these earrings. So I love making jewelry boxes. It's one of the first projects, first few projects, I think, that I made whenever I got into woodworking when I was about 15 years old. So let's go over to the bench. I'll show you what we're working with for lumber and we'll get started. Okay guys, so what we're going to be using for this jewelry box is a piece of maple. This is actually a pretty unique piece of wood. It looks like bird's eye maple. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. It should show up. But it's not bird's eye. I don't really know what caused this, but it's a really unique pattern. I don't know how it's going to look. I've never used this piece of wood for anything else. So we're going to go ahead and get it planed up, put it into, sand it, put it into finish and see what it looks like, see how it turns out. But that's going to be the main box and the lid. We're going to be using Bloodwood for the inside. I'm going to make some dividers and maybe a tray out of some Bloodwood and maple, just to kind of break up the color palette, give it a little pop and contrast. So the jewelry box itself is going to be 12 inches long. I'm going to make it 5 or 6 inches deep and probably 4 or 5 inches high. It's going to be a smaller jewelry box, but like I say, Lucy's she's not even 1 yet, and she doesn't have a ton of jewelry yet. Maybe down the road here I'll make her a bigger one when she gets older. So let's go ahead and start breaking this lumber down at the joiner. Get one side flat, remember frowny downy, and we'll go ahead and get started here. Okay guys, we are back from the joiner and planer, and as you can see, that figure, it's almost like it's quilting, like a quilted maple in that. Just a beautiful piece of wood. I know when I bought the board off my lumber supplier, he called it the bubble board. He said he had never seen that in 30 some years. So again, I'm not really sure what caused that. This is the piece we just milled. This is the before piece, just to remind you kind of what it looked like in the rough. Here, I'll flip this piece over. If you can see that a little better now. Try to get the shadow out of there. But just what a gorgeous piece of wood. Yes, I know I do get a little excited over figure in wood, but if you're a woodworker, you know where I'm coming from. So, okay, so what we're going to do at this point, guys, I like to recess the bottoms of my jewelry boxes in a slot. Typically I'll leave about a 1/4 inch of material underneath. My bottoms are 3/8 to a 1/2 inch. Let's call it a 1/2 inch. I'm just guessing here. So I like to leave the piece complete. This is enough to do the front, the back, in both ends. This is like 30, no, it's like 42 inches long, 3.5 feet. We need 3 feet with our miters. So what we'll do, we'll go ahead and take this piece whole over to the table saw. I'll rip this groove. We'll go about a 1/4 inch, 5/16 deep. I don't want to go super deep. It's 3/4 thick, so we have plenty of material to work with. But we'll go ahead and take this out of here, the whole length of the board. And the reason I do that rather than cut these into pieces and then do it is that way this all lines up 100%. You know, even if you're off a 32nd, you'll feel that difference. You'll have to sand the bottom. It's not a big deal. You can still do it. You can still have your project turn out really nice. But this expedites it and just allows you to be very efficient when it comes to woodworking. So let's go over to the table saw. We'll get this set up, rip that rabbet, the whole length of this, and then we'll come back over and move on to the next step. Okay guys, so we have our piece back from the table saw. We went ahead and ripped that groove. We're going to take this over to the chop saw station. And what I want to do, I want to make this grain run continuous around the box. Obviously, since there's 4 sides, one of the intersections, and I'm going to make it the back left corner, back right corner, so it's in the back of the box, is not going to line up. But if I start in the back left, do the side, the front, the right side, and back around, all that grain is going to be continuous. So it's going to look like this piece of wood, and we just basically bent it around a box. So for lack of better explanation. Okay guys, so we cut our first piece. This will be the left side. I'm going to go ahead and number this 1, 2 as we work our way around the box. So in order to do that continuous grain, what we need to do is flip the saw back around to the left 45. I'm going to cut right down that line right there on this side, because you got to take into account the kerf of the blade. That blade's, you know, an 1/8 inch thick or so. If I cut on this side, you're going to have a variance. Is it going to be much? No, but we're trying to be real close here. So we'll put our blade over on this side. So this will be our blade waist, but we want to come right down that edge. So let's go ahead and do that next, and we'll cut out the front of the box. So as you can see guys, we'll just go right down the line here. First piece to the second piece, the third piece to the fourth piece, and it all lines up. Now obviously this end here and the beginning end, they're not going to line up, but again, we'll put that in the back so people really can't see that. So the next step here, we're going to go ahead and get a band clamp. I'm going to put this into what it's going to look like finished. Get a measurement for the bottom. We'll go ahead and cut the bottom. Should be able to get the bottom out of this piece of maple. We'll go ahead and glue that in, let that sit overnight in the clamps, and then we can move on to the next step. This is a lot easier, guys, if you put tape on the face of these. I'm just being impatient here and being bullheaded like a typical man. So I'm gonna fight it, and that's my choice, I guess. There we go. All right, now you can kind of see what the finished outside's gonna look like. Obviously, this isn't glued, it's just mocked up so I can get a dimension here, but so let's go ahead. We know that our groove, I cut that 1/4 inch deep. So if we're 6 inches, well, let's go inside. So we're 4.5 inside, and I got to add 1/4 for this side and 1/4 for this side to go into the recess. So that's going to be another 1/2 inch. So we're going to go make our bottom 5 inches wide, and for length we're at 9.5. So I got to add 1/2 inch, so 10. So I need to be 10 inches long, 5 inches wide. So let's go ahead and cut that piece. You see, guys, I am bullheaded, but I'm usually only bullheaded once. I get tired of fighting stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and bust out the painter's tape here. Do the painter's tape trick. I'm just gonna put one band on it. That'll be good. Stretch this out, get this tape off my finger, and there we go. Line them up. All you do is just butt them together and just push that piece of tape down so they stick. Just get it lined up. And last piece here. Okay. That way you can flip these up. Then you're not going to fight it as much. So we have our bottom we just cut. Let's go ahead and slide that in our groove. See how we did? Oh, it looks good. I always leave a little tail on that end. That way you can wrap it around. Obviously you can adjust it, but that just kind of holds that. So as you can see, I got to do a little bit of sand in here before we glue that up. But there's the bottom. We have plenty of meat there. It's just shy of 1/4 inch. You probably have 3/16 of wood around the bottom. I don't like to go much thinner than that. If you go much thinner than that, these tend to break or can break when you're gluing them up. So we still have plenty of room inside. We got a total of almost 2 7/8. So what we'll do on the inside, and I know I'm jumping ahead here, but just to give you a little idea what we're going to do. We're going to take the bloodwood, and we're going to go ahead and mill that to about 1.5 inches. And I'm going to do a long divider down the middle and probably 2 dividers this way. Then after that, I'm thinking about making a tray that'll sit down in the full inside of this. Again, only 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches deep, just something narrow. That'll sit on top of that divider. So when you open the door, open the lid up, there's the word I'm looking for. When you open the lid up, you can pull the tray out and then you'll have dividers in the bottom. So you're maximizing your storage versus just leaving this open and throwing all your stuff in it. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit this with a palm sander, get some of these little burrs off of here, get it in glue. I'll speed through this for you since that's kind of boring. So we'll come back after that's done. Okay, we're ready to glue, guys. I just like to I'm using some Gorilla wood glue here. I've been trying this stuff out and been pretty happy with it so far. In the past, I used a lot of Titebond 3 just because I did a ton of cutting boards and I always had a plethora of Titebond 3 laying around. The one thing I found with Titebond 3 is that you tend to get, over time, after you have a smooth finish and that glue sets and dries out and the finish dries out, and you'll feel, if you run your hand along a glue joint, you'll feel it's raised. I forget the word, there is a term for that, but you'll feel that. And that usually only comes with Titebond 2 and Titebond 3. Titebond 3 is way more prone to it than Titebond 2. You won't have it with Titebond 1. Again, I'd have to look up the term. It's not coming to the front of my mind right now. But for that reason, I went ahead and switched to a different wood glue. Again, you could use Titebond 1 if you have it. I just didn't have any. When I was at the store last, they didn't have any on the shelf. So I bought some Gorilla wood glue. I've done 2 or 3 projects with it so far. And again, it works real nice. It's a little bit thicker of a glue, which is fine. I'm not doing anything that I'm trying to hide the seams with. So a lot of people will leave the bottoms floating. I do like to put just a little bit of glue. I'm not going crazy. I guess that's just the over-engineer personality that I have, so if that makes any sense to you guys. So let's just go ahead and push that down. We'll just rotate it here, close the box up. This is where the tape really comes in handy. Just kind of gives you a third hand, if you will. So we got that all glued up. You have a little bit of squeeze out. I like to try to get rid of most of that. Another reason I sand the inside prior to glue is once you have this glued up, it is a royal pain to try to sand in there. So I do a good pre-sanding of all of it, and then once it's out of clamps and whatnot, I'll go ahead and hit it again. So let's go ahead and crank that down, make sure these are all lined up. Yep, everything feels good. Okay, that'll be good. We'll let that sit overnight, and then we'll come back and move on to the next step. Okay guys, we're back. This is just a little bit later the same day. I decided, I had a little bit of time, decided I'm gonna come down and mill up the Bloodwood for the inside dividers. I don't know if I'm gonna do that tray in maple. I think I'm gonna do it in Bloodwood as well if I can find a piece big enough for the bottom, which I think I have on the shelf buried somewhere. So I'm gonna go ahead and mill down 2 pieces. These are from some bread knives that I had done prior. I'm gonna go ahead and get these milled down to probably 1/4 inch, 5/16, and I'm gonna cut them. We're gonna go ahead and make that dividers. Let's make them 1 inch and 3/8 high. That's about halfway up. I'm gonna get these over to the planer here, since I already have one edge jointed, or one bottom, excuse me, jointed. Take them over to the planer, get them down to thickness. Okay, we got those cut. That gives me a center divider. You can see that. Let me prop this up. Center divider, and then that'll give me two, we'll call it intersecting dividers. So what I want to do, instead of cutting these and then just butt gluing them into the centerpiece, I'm going to half notch these pieces and then half notch the bottom. Let me show you. So here's our center. I'll find center on here, and then we'll take half of that out up to here, and then on the corresponding intersection, I'll take half. Again, I'm going to measure these. I'm just for the camera here. I'll take that down to here. That way these will intersect and then sit flush and give you a nice tight joint. Okay guys, so obviously I need to sand this up, do a little bit of chisel work there, but you can pretty much get the idea of what I'm doing. There's our dividers. We'll go ahead and slide that right down inside. Boom, there you go. So we'll get that all glued up, get it square. You can see I have a little bit of adjustment there, which is fine. It's not super tight. Not a big deal. That glue will take up that slack. We'll get that all where I want it, get it glued into the box, and then we can come back and start making our tray that'll slide down in on top of this. This will actually hold the tray, so we don't need to do any recesses on the side with some pieces of wood to hold anything. It'll just sit right on top of that. Okay guys, I saved a little bit of time, went ahead and milled this up for the tray. I didn't want to bother you with that. Basically cut another bottom like we did for in there. This will be the tray. You can see it fits in there. I gave it a little bit of slack. You don't want these super tight because they will form a suction, believe it or not. So I like to leave at least a 1/16 of an inch, or maybe just a shake over that both ways. And then I went ahead and cut 4 pieces of bloodwood that'll go ahead and make the perimeter of the tray. Set them on here. I'm gonna get this glued up. And that's pretty much it right there. That tray will just sit down inside on top, like that. I'm not gonna drop it in there right now because that's still drying inside. But I'm gonna get this in the glue, get this all ready, and then we can move on to the lid. So at this point, we're pretty much ready to go ahead and get the lid. That's kind of the last step. I just rough sanded everything just to knock the rough edges off and the glue squeeze out. So we're gonna go ahead and get a piece of that bubble maple, bubble wood, or whatever he called that. Another piece of what this box is made out of. Oh, let me show you that too. So this is where we started when we were cutting those pieces, and you can see that grain as it wraps around the corner, lines right up. If you can see that edge there, and then that comes around to the last. Now this doesn't, this side here is good. This is the last edge right here. So this is where it's not gonna line up. It's not super noticeable unless you're looking for it, but it's kind of cool that being the front of the box. I got one little nicker I got to sand out. That grain does run continuous, so it's just kind of a nice little touch. Okay guys, so the last step is the lid. I'm gonna go ahead and grab another piece of that bubble maple. Boy, I like calling it bubble maple. It just sounds funny. But I'm gonna get a piece of that, mill it down to thickness, cut it to the size that we need, get it ready for rough assembly with probably recess 2 little hinges in the back. I'll probably run to the hardware store, grab 2 little brass hinges, maybe a brass clasp for the front to keep it closed. We'll take it back apart, put finish on it, put it back together, and call it done. Okay guys, so we got our lid all milled down, cut the size. It's fitting really, really nice here on the box. So the next step, I ran down to the hardware store and I grabbed 2 brass hinges. I got a clasp also. So here's the clasp we're going to use. It came in a 2-pack, but use one of these onto the front. That'll keep the lid closed. We'll get to that eventually. So the next thing I want to do is get these hinges on, and what I'm going to do is recess the thickness of that hinge, which is, let's see where my tape is. So we're looking at a little over 1/8 of an inch, and what I'm going to do is recess that 100% into the box. Let's go ahead and measure in. I'm going to measure in 2 inches. I think that looks good. 2 inches on this side. There's no real right way, wrong way. Now let's go 1.5 inches. I think that's gonna look a lot better. 1.5 inches, 1.5 inches, yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and make a mark. Mark there. We'll square these up. Kind of doing this backwards. Let's cut down about 1/8 heavy. I don't want to go too far and have them too deep. There we go. And then we'll just go ahead and use our chisels to remove the material in between these. Guys, as you can see, I'm having some issues here. I'm pretty fluent with the chisel. I've never really had this kind of trouble. But what it's doing, it's just breaking out large pieces and not coming off in slices. So it has to do with that grain, with that curl. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and get the router here. I'm going to put a straight cut bit in this, set it to depth, and then just go in between my two cut lines. That way I'm not going to ruin this box at this point, trying to fight it with that chisel. Chisels are very, very sharp. I keep up with those. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the straight cut bit with the router and get it done that way. Well guys, sometimes modern technology is the way to go. So got those routed in. I'm going to get these pre-drilled, get these hinges mounted. I'll come back as soon as I have this mocked up. Okay guys, I got it all mocked up. Got the clasp on the front. Hinges are mounted. Open it up here. Take the drawer out, the tray. Obviously you can see the dividers in there. I'm going to do one more quick finish sanding on this, just take any of the rough edges off. I'm going to spray a couple coats of fast drying polyurethane. I'm just going to do warm satin. I really like this stuff. It's just a quick, convenient way to put finish on. As soon as I'm done with that, with maybe 2-3 coats, I'll come back, show you what the final project looks like. Well guys, there's 2 coats of finish on there. I'm going to probably throw 1 or 2 more coats just to even it out. But I am extremely happy with how this turned out. Again, there's the inner tray. You can see that Bloodwood really pops with that finish. There's the inside with the dividers. Just a fun little project. I know you guys a lot of the time ask, how much time did I have into a project, real time? Because you watched a video that's only half hour, hour long, something to that effect. I have about 2 hours and 10 minutes total into this project so far. That's real time, unedited, 2 hours and 10 minutes. So to give you guys an idea, if you wanted to make these for crafts or sell these online, anything like that, of course you can get that time down. I was just kind of shooting from the cuff on this one. When you have a plan, or if you're batching these out, you want to do 5 or 10 at a time, obviously you can save a lot more time and get that 2 hours and 2 hours 15 minutes down to less. But figure 2 hours. Material, probably, if I had to buy this material, I've had it, but if I had to buy the material, you probably have about 30 bucks all in, between the finish, the clasp, the hinges, the maple, the Bloodwood, probably 30 bucks, I'd say, $25 to $30. So that'll give you an idea. Again, nice little box. This one ended up being 6 inches deep, 11 inches long, and I think 4 1/4 inches high. Again, with the tray and the dividers inside. So guys, check back. If you enjoyed the video, throw me a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate that. The channel's growing. I really appreciate all the comments, the feedback. Having a lot of fun. I'm just trying to get some time to pump some more videos out for you. So guys, until next time, be kind to one another. Stay safe.